Okay, before we show you a couple of new shuffles that preserve Bessey sequences, I want to point out something very, very important. A vast majority of card tricks that you will see performed on YouTube or by magicians live on the stage or what have you, they will not be providing you with tools to create your own variations of the effects that they've shown you. In fact, most mathematical card effects, which people refer to as self-working card effects, the individual showing the trick has no idea how it works in the first place. So I want to point out that with each of these that I'm showing you in this little mini-series devoted to Bessey sequences, I'm not showing you just one effect. The effects I come up with are simply a way to couch the principles underneath the effect. And with the principles that I'm teaching you here, you can create your own effects. Virtually an endless number of effects. So you're not being taught a single card trick. You're being given the tools to create virtually a countless number of card effects, limited only by your imagination, as is the case for me. I'm only limited by my imagination in terms of how to employ these principles in interesting and engaging ways. Okay? So I just want to emphasize, you're not just learning a single effect here. I'm introducing you to principles that open up a whole universe of possible effects that you can now come up with, make your own, and perform to the world. So as you can see here, I have ace through 8 of spades. Okay, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to just begin to mix these a little bit. So I'm going to do an LR, let's call it an LR shuffle here, left, right. And then I want to mix these a little bit further. So I'll take one from the top, maybe 2 from the bottom, 1 from the top, maybe 1 from the bottom, a couple from the top, and then the last one can go on top. Okay? So in fact, I can just show you how messy the packet is here. The ordering, there's no perceivable order to those cards whatsoever. Okay, so what I'd like you to do, and of course you're not here, so I'll have to play your part, but if you were here, what I would do is fan these out and then have you point to perhaps 2 or 3 cards which will be flipped face up in their current locations. So maybe you point to this one right here, and I'll flip it face up. And then maybe you point to like this one. That's great. And then maybe you point to the one right next to it. That's fine as well. Okay, so we've turned face up 3 cards. That's just great. Okay, so and we can perform, I guess we can do a little bit of a review of previous shuffles if you would like. We can do a mange, an over-under. That would be fine. That's one that we've taught you earlier. We could do a ferrule. Do you remember a ferrule? This is where you fan them out, and then you take half of them, and then you just perfectly interlace them. And it actually doesn't matter if it's a ferrule in or a ferrule out. Either one works just fine. We could do, let's say, an odd up jog. This is where you push the odd position cards forward, and then you strip them out with random stacking. Okay, and then we could do something called a Bessey 2-2 shuffle. This is where you take the top card off, and you do that twice. You go 1, 2 from the top, 1, 2 from the bottom, 1, 2 from the top, 1, 2 from the bottom, just like that. We could do something called a 50% coating. That just means count out half the cards and then randomly stack those according to the spectator's request. Okay. We can even do one that we've taught you recently, this kind of reverse LR. Okay, so this is where you go from left to right, but instead of going left to right again to build up the second level, you go from right to left. And now we're free to stack this from left to right, right to left, or we can do a leapfrog sort of stacking. This is where you leap over the one next to it, and with random stacking. Okay, well that's enough mixing using shuffles that we've shown you already. Now the ones that I want to show you today, it's actually an LR. I call it an LRF. F is for flip. So you just do a left, right, and then you pick up either one, flip it, and stack it on top of the other. Okay? And you can do as many of those as you like, choosing either one to flip and then stack on top of the other. Okay, maybe we'll do one more of those. And if you're here, you could dictate which one gets flipped. So maybe you want this one flipped again, stacked on top. Very good. Now the other one that I've paired with it is actually an up jog flip. So maybe we'll do an even up jog. This is where you push forward the even position cards, strip those out. Now instead of just randomly stacking these, we're going to flip one and then random stack. Okay? Just like that. Maybe we'll do another one of those. Okay, very good. Strip it out. Maybe you want to flip this one again. That's fine. And now you want this one on top. That's just great. So you can do as many of those as you would like, or as the spectator would like. Okay, so maybe they flip this one, set it on top. Okay. Now once the spectator is satisfied that the cards are sufficiently mixed, we're going to go ahead and just divide them into two piles, as always. Okay, so if you think about it, all of the mixing that's been done can be done by the spectator. All of the mixing that we've talked through, all of those important decisions are made by them. So as the performer, I'm going to now play some role in all of this because I haven't actually affected anything yet. So I'm simply going to try to use my intuition to kind of separate these cards into two piles. That's all I'm going to do. Okay, so two piles. Let's see. Maybe like right there. Okay. So let's see what we've done here. In fact, we have a prediction over here on the right. So let me just bring that out. I tried to write a prediction as to what might happen in the end. The even valued cards will be separated from the odd valued cards. How likely is that by chance alone? How likely is that? So let's just kind of spread these out. Well, it's looking, it's looking promising. We got a couple of evens here. We're just hoping that this one's even. It is. What about these? We're hoping, since that's odd, we're hoping that one's odd. How about this one? Oh, that's odd. Okay, it comes down to these last two as to whether our prediction fails. Oh, we got it. We got it. We separated 2, 4, 6, 8 from 1, 3, 5, 7, just as our written prediction said we would do. Isn't that amazing? Okay, so how does this one work? Well, as you know, we started with an ordered packet, which is, a nice way to go. Now, the spectator, when they see all of the mixing, they'll realize that no human, you would have to be some kind of savant to keep track of where things are going. And the reality is, to track just one of the 8 cards would be very, very difficult. To track all 8 out of 8 cards is just nigh impossible, quite honestly. Okay, so you start with this. Now the prediction is that we're going to separate the evens from the odds. Okay, well, what that will mean then is, if you go back to our special structure here, in the end, we'll be putting, quote, the ones in one pile and the zeros in the second pile. So what this means then is we want the cards in the positions marked as ones to all be even, let's say, or they could all be odd, it wouldn't matter. So let's say they're all even. So we need an even valued card here, one here, one here, and one here. And then the other positions, we need odd valued cards. Okay? Well, a really slick way of doing that actually is what I just showed you. So let's go ahead and we'll do it face up, because it uses shuffles that we're already using. Okay, so what I did was, so imagine the cards were face down, right, with ace on top. I just want you to see what's going on, right, with this effect. So what I did first, if you remember, is I did a left-right shuffle. Well, if you think about it just for a moment, you'll realize that separates the even value cards from the odd value cards, and it has, right? Now we can randomly stack these. It doesn't matter in what order we stack these, okay? So just think, I guess we can show you here. The even position cards are on top. So well, we were going to do it face up, sorry. Okay, so we have the odd position cards on top, the even on the bottom, okay? So maybe, weren't we going to have the one be an even? So maybe we'll do that little switch so that we're consistent with what I told you earlier. Okay, so the evens will be the ones, the zeros will be the odds, okay? So I have it face up just so you can see what's going on. Ordinarily, it would be face down, okay? So what I did from here is I essentially followed this little recipe. You can think of it as a recipe where I want an even valued card, okay? So you can think about this telling you how to draw things off. Now, I realize it reverses the order of the cards as you draw them off, but the reversal of this sequence is what's called the inversion of this Bessey sequence. And both of those are, quote, Bessey sequences. They form a pair. They're the complement of each other or the inversion of each other. Okay, so that's not an issue. So just focus on one being even, zero being odd. So I look, in my mind's eye, all I have to see is 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0. That's all I need to remember, okay? So 1, so you take 1 from the top, and then I take 2 from the bottom to grab 2 odd valued cards, 1 from the top, even valued card, 1 from the bottom, odd valued, 1 from the top, another 1 from the top, the last one goes on top, which is an odd valued card, okay? So this will now be in our special arrangement where the ones are labeling or marking the even value cards, there you go, and the zeros the odd value cards, those two, and then these two here, okay? So what that means now is we can mix this as much as we like using any of the shuffles I've shown you so far, and when you add more to your repertoire later, you can use those as well. And it will preserve the essential structure that's being described by this representation of a Bessey sequence, okay? So from there, now we can actually just turn it face down if you would like, but so from there we can do, we can do it into 4, left to right, and then with random stacking, left to right, right to left, or leapfrog. We can go ahead and do, up jogs. These are just some of the previous ones that we've shown you. You can do a mange, over, under, over. You can do as many Klondikes as you like. This is where you take the top and bottom cards off as one. One we haven't reviewed recently is something called a Bessey 1-1. This is where you just take one from the top, one from the bottom, one from the top, one from the bottom, top, bottom, top. Last one goes on top. Now that does look similar to the Klondike, but it is not the same. It gives you a different ordering, but it nonetheless preserves these Bessey sequences. Okay? And we can also do one that we've shown you recently, this kind of reverse LR. So this is where you go like this way, left to right. Instead of continuing again, dealing left to right, you go in reverse order. Remember that? And we can stack from right to left, left to right, or we can do a leapfrog kind of stacking. And that will preserve the essential structure here that we've imposed on our packet of cards. Okay? Now, the one that's new today is the LRF and the upjog F. I think I may have had you do this first before I kind of reviewed some of these previous shuffles, but I asked you to point to 2 or 3 cards to be flipped over. Maybe you want this one. So you could do it at this point, right before you show these new shuffles, or before we even did the review of some of those earlier shuffles. It won't actually matter when you do those. And then maybe this one, I guess, or something. Whoop. Okay, so maybe those. Okay, so the spectator is freely kind of pointing to 3 random cards. You flip them and put them back in their original position. Okay, and now from here, we're doing an LRF. Well, that's just a left, right shuffle. And now you're free to choose either pile to flip, and then you can randomly stack those two. So for example, you can do it in 2 steps. You can say, well, I want to flip this one. Okay, very good. Now, how would you like them stacked? Oh, you want this one on top of that one? Very good. It won't hurt. It won't make a difference. Okay. We also showed you an up jog. Here is an even up jog. This is where you push forward the even position cards, strip them out. Now earlier in this series, we would just stack right on left or left on right as dictated by the spectator. But now you can randomly flip either one and now random stack. Okay, so that's what's new. That shuffle will not harm the fundamental structure represented by this sequence of zeros and ones. You can do as many of those as you like together with this LRF, I call it. LR because it's left-right, F because it's a random flipping of either half. Maybe you want to flip this half and then stack them like this. That's just fine. Okay? Now, believe it or not, our basic structure has not been harmed or undermined in any way, despite all of that. That's the amazing thing about this sequence. Okay? So, to kind of pull those apart, we're really just needing to put all of the, quote, ones in one pile and the zeros in another pile. Okay, so if we begin dealing to ourselves this time instead of the spectator, it's freely up to you as to how to do that. But maybe, so what I'm thinking is, well, I see this sequence in my mind. So I'm thinking, okay, that's a 1, and then a 0, so 1, 0, 0, and then I get 1. Now we're over here. Now remember, I was a 1, they were a 0, so 0, 1, 1, 0. Okay? And then at this point, you can bring out your prediction. It's looking very good right now, actually, once we read the prediction. Here we can't see anything, which is wonderful, right? You have no idea what's there. So you bring out your written prediction that in the end, you will be separating the even value cards from the odd value cards, okay? And technically, all you'd need to do to demonstrate that is to flip that one over, but let's make it more fun, right? So we're thinking these are all odd, these are all even. Well, that's good, that's even. Oh, that's even. That's even, of course, and that's even as well, which means this is odd, which it is. It's a 1, and 1 is an odd number. Okay, so that is how that effect works. And what makes it all work is this special arrangement of the cards that is invariant. Now that's a fancy way of saying it will not change or be harmed or fundamentally altered by the shuffles that I've been showing you. Okay? So once it's in this organization, you can perform these, couple dozen plus shuffles in any order, in any quantity, and it will not hurt this in the least. Okay, so that's another couple of shuffles. The LRF, F for random flip 1/2, and the up jog F, which is just an up jog, but you randomly flip one of the halves and then randomly stack. So thanks for watching, and take a look at the previous videos in this little mini series if you haven't, or the ones that follow this one right here.